In competitive spaces in Destiny 2 PvP, you don't often see a Titan, and if you do, it's going to probably be a bottom tree striker or a behemoth. That's just what the meta calls for at the moment. It's one of the most competitive options. This season's sandbox balancing changes have made this more set in stone than ever. For some reason, the striker super got a buff. Now across the board universally, there are slide changes in effect that say if you slide you experience worse stability, experience more flinch, and if you're using a shotgun, most importantly, you get more pellet spread, which makes your shotgun more inconsistent. As a result, melee builds are rising up in the meta. We see things that we haven't seen in a while like Top Tree Arc Strider, we see more Titans on Syntheseps than ever, and Warlocks, because of another change to swap speed, are using Ophidian aspects which do improve your melee distance, which is already better on the Warlock. This brings us to Bottom Tree Striker, which gets that Synthesept extra melee lunge for breaking the shield of an opponent, which happens without even thinking in PvP, especially when using a shotgun at a proper distance. So to reiterate, this class was already very competitive, but it got even better with some universal slide changes that made every class inconsistent. So if we're talking what is the most consistent option that remains now, it's Bottom Tree Striker. You break the shield, you get your enhanced lunge, and with the power of Dunemarchers, you chain electricity 30 meters for just getting a punch. And the worst part is that these Dunemarcher exotics chain to dead bodies, so even if you punch somebody and there's a dead body off in the corner, the lightning will chain to that dead body in the corner and then find a new 30-meter target, so it's obnoxiously good. So much so that I would say it warrants a nerf just because of how non-decision this becomes on Titan when you're playing to win. So let's recap really quickly on what a Titan has to do in a competitive environment to help the team succeed. In my opinion, I think that a Titan's job is to draw attention from the enemy team by placing a barricade for a safe peek while waiting for his teammates to set up flanks and side angles, and when the team is ready and calls in enough chip damage, it's the Titan's job to fly in and try to get a shotgun melee that, unfortunately because of Dunemarchers, will chain the entire team. The problem is, even if you fail at this a couple times, the one time that Dunemarchers procs makes it all worth it, and you probably win the match as a result. This is so prevalent in high-level play that you don't even have to be successful as a shotgunner with Dunemarcher Bottom Tree Striker, because just the presence, the possibility of somebody pulling off the dunes makes everybody very scared, and that leads to more positioning mistakes by your opponents. So now that I got you up to speed, the meta shakeup of this season has, in a couple regards, pushed Behemoth up just a little bit. For example, the Cryoclasm slide aspect now immediately ignites Glacier grenades when you slide into them. Also, the melee ability, which is like an instant shoulder charge, is now slightly faster. So those were the buffs. It also received some nerfs though. The Rhyme overshield farming now no longer has the same precision damage resistance, so you can get headshot out of the overshield, which defeats a bit of the purpose. So the team play aspect of Behemoth went down just a little bit. So now we look at Bottom Tree Striker. Its super went up, shotguns went down, and melee builds all around are back in business. Ultimately, this means that Bottom Tree Striker and Behemoth are inching closer and closer together to being around a similar power level in terms of the meta. But y'all know I like playing Behemoth, so why am I suddenly playing Bottom Tree Striker? The answer to that is that Bottom Tree Striker, for some reason or another, is allowed in competitive play in Destiny, and the tournament scene has started switching to 4v4, as well as most of my teammates started playing the game again, and we're obsessed with radar manipulation. And one of the few ways to get that done is to use the flashbang grenade, which unfortunately Behemoth does not have. I initially tried Top Tree Striker because it has 2 grenades, and if those flashbangs hit, it is an extended duration. I used it with Heart of Inmost Light to get the best cooldown on the grenades possible, and came out to 15 to 20 second grenades on average, which is fantastic. But even with that grenade uptime, it paled in comparison to simply landing a punch with Dunemarchers and having more shotgun consistency. So this is the part of the video where I call a spade a spade. I've had this discussion in Twitch chat a lot and want a video saying it to maybe save some of this discussion. And that is Dunemarchers and the movement skill gap. To me, Dunemarchers is not about the movement, it's about the damage. To me, Dunemarchers are a damage exotic. But let's rewind here. Movement skill gap. What exactly does that mean? On Bottom Tree Striker, that means scroll wheel skating down a lane, choosing a smart time to fly forward, hip firing the shotgun more often than not, and praying that you proc to knockout and hit the melee button to punch the team and make it very unfun for them. And on their screen, what they see is not movement skill gap, but a Titan teleporting around as they slide and melee lunge with incredible desync. After playing this game for a few years, it's apparent to me that the networking model of Destiny 2 cannot handle the melee lunge speed or the extended slide distance, which is effectively speed. So I'm saying this to reiterate the strengths of this exotic. It creates so much chaos in close quarters space that it's unrealistic for your opponent to track at all. So if you're playing to win, I think you gotta do what everyone else is doing and use it to your advantage. And these will pretty much be glued to my Titan, along with Syntheseps and maybe Peacekeepers and Lion Rampants down the road if I could get a roll. I like DMT hipfire and the float that comes with it so much that I'm willing to forego the melee desync nonsense, but when push comes to shove and I have to start winning matches, the Dunes and Syntheseps come back on. Of course, I'm still going to play other builds on my Titan, as well as I do think there are other competitive builds that exist, but just are tournament illegal. So when I'm playing Destiny 2, the game, I'll be using stuff like no backup plans and sixes, like I just said, DMT Lion Rampant, Behemoth with Heart of Inmost Light to team play and overshield farm. There's a lot of Titan options, there really are, but the problem is a lot are turning illegal, and more importantly, the winning strategy that teams usually plug a Titan in to fill means that you're playing aggressive shotgunning. And when it comes to that role, I don't think any other class does it better than Bottom Tree Striker or Behemoth. So fingers crossed that PvP keeps trending in a more positive direction like it kind of is, and the faith in Bungie's direction with PvP has been a bit restored for me personally. I think that with talk of objective game modes, with ability frequency and potency being looked at, with the lessons learned from Stasis, with the thought process of Void 3.0 giving us some of the good parts of Stasis with hopefully not the bad parts, I'm super excited to see what the future brings. And for now, I'll be playing Bottom Tree Striker shotgunning when it calls for it, but also hoping that I don't have to play this class forever. I do think I can make Missile Titan with Syntheseps work just as good, but it really comes down to player skill and running the practice, and I think I'm going to do that this season. So I'll keep you all posted on exactly what I'm playing when it comes to Titan and what I'm finding valuable, and cue you in on the learning process. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.